Hello trainers, thanks for checking out this video. sharkunL here with the next in my series of interviews with local organizers and top PvP players in the Pittsburgh region. Today I'm joined by Pittsburgh trainer Joey, who has won several tournaments here and who joined me to let me pick his brain on how he prepares for PvP and his various methodologies. Stay tuned through the end of the video because Joey and I did a best of 3 Kingdom Cup prep session, which I'm going to include at the end of the video. And if you like these videos and you like this sort of content, please take a moment and hit subscribe and hit like on the video to help me spread the word and extend the reach of this channel, which was created to try to encourage folks who might be interested in PvP but haven't tried it yet and show them how great it is to get involved. Thanks for checking out the video, and here is the interview. Well, I am joined today by Pittsburgh trainer Joey, who is another one of the top PvP players in Pittsburgh, and I would like to pick his brain about PokemonGo and PvP. So Joey, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Well, let me start the same place I've started so far with all my interviews. Tell us about your Pokemon journey. You know, when did you start? Were you a Pokemon fan or just started the game for some other reason? And kind of how long you've been playing?
Yeah, I was about like 2 or 3 years old when Pokemon came out, and I was super into it because I had an older cousin that was into it. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I was into it through pretty much my whole adolescence. And then I not like when I was in like, later in high school or college. And then I was working during the summer for the local country club, and all the waiters I was working with downloaded like, oh, you got to check this game out. I'm like, I don't think I'd like it, but I'll try it. So I gave it a shot, and like a month later, I was the only one still playing it. So I played it pretty hard. I lived in Oakland. Oakland's a pretty good place in Pittsburgh to play. There's so many stops, a lot of good spawn.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, so I realized I was leveling up a lot faster than a lot of other people. I mean, obviously some people were higher level than me. There's always a bigger fish, but it was cool. It was something I liked. But then the winter came and I stopped for a couple months, like 3 or 4 months. And then I played sort of like a couple months on, a couple months off until about a year ago. Yeah, I think it was last July during like Squirtle Community Day. I hit level 40. And then I've been playing like nonstop basically since then.
I think that's a fairly typical story. Well, I quit for about a year and started back. I played at the very beginning for like 3 or 4 months, and then I started back like last May or June, probably shortly before you did. So I think a lot of people kind of left and maybe came back after
Yeah,
games
a
got
lot of people are
changed
coming
and
back.
trading and stuff.
Yeah, I've been able to get 4 or 5 of my friends to come back in. I'm like, hey, just come out for like bag on day. Like, oh, bag on's pretty cool. I'm like, you're gonna love it. It's big.
Well, I first met you at the first tournament I went to, not the first tournament I went to, but the first tournament I went to out
Yeah,
in Monroeville,
yeah,
and
that was
you were
my first
there, and you defeated me, and you defeated me the second time we battled too.
one. Hey,
So
you have
you're
this.
a tough cookie in the PvP. But tell us how you kind of got started in PvP and what interests you about that.
Ooh, that's always been the thing I wanted with the game. I think that's kind of why I kept coming back after a couple months off. I'm like, well, they said maybe they'll do PvP someday. So I've really just been accumulating resources for like almost like 8, 9 months before PvP came out, where I was just like trying to stash up supplies and Stardust. So when PvP came out, I had like well over 1 million Stardust that I just blew through
Yeah,
immediately.
still have it
Um,
now.
no, now I think I'm barely at like 20,000. That's just because I need 25 to power something up. Um, so PvP. So I always try to have like at least one of each guy, just ready on standby. And I always try to keep like high IV guys. Like my goal before PvP came out, because I didn't know about level caps, was try to get 100% guys. So it was kind of a boring, just clicking through guys, constantly just trying to find like a perfect one. Raids didn't really interest me, but I was really holding out for PvP, and it did not disappoint. I've been very happy with it.
Well, that's the same here, and when they introduced it with the Great League and the thresholds,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people got caught probably in the same situation you were, where I was, let's get the highest CP1, the best IV, the 100% or whatever. And I found that for a lot of the stuff that ended up being good in PvP, I had a great one, but it was
Yeah.
2500 or
Or you powered it up too
that's
much.
right. So now I have a whole new set of things that I have to go out and search for, because what it's done for me is it's made playing the game in general a whole different experience, because now I have to look for different things. And so far,
Mm-hmm.
every month when the Sylph Cup comes out, I have to look for a new set of different things, and it's a whole kind of new scavenger hunt.
Yeah, I like that a lot though. I like that basically I had to start from zero, try to catch guys with IVs optimal for PvP. You want to minimize the attacks. So, and it's easier, I think, to find better IV sets for PvP because it's all just fractions of a point. I don't think it ever really comes up. I think there's a lot of emphasis on IVs when it doesn't matter as much, but it makes any catch kind of exciting. Like, oh wow, that guy had perfect defense and perfect HP. I never thought I'd play Shiftry, but maybe I'll need him down the line or
Yeah.
something like that. So now it's cool that I'm just trying to get like one of each guy for PvP, and I have most Great League guys now. I'm pretty pleased with it.
Oh,
So
really?
I'll start working on Ultra next.
Well, I'm still working as the cups come out to try to scramble and put together my teams on that. And
Yeah, I think this next one, Nightmare, I think I'm only going to have to power up like 2 guys for it. I think I have a lot of guys for that one. I have a lot of the Legacy Hypnos because I played so much when it came out and Drowsies ran rampant.
well,
So I have a couple Shadow Ball Hypnos.
I never had one, and it's almost ridiculous that I was in Chicago like a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm a comic book artist, and I was at a comic book convention, and on a lark, I put out a little sign on my table at the convention that said, "If you play Pokemon Go, tell me, we can make a trade." And
Oh, yeah?
I made probably 10 or 15 trades over the course of a weekend at the convention, and it was nothing specific. We were just doing distance or old ones to try to get luckies. And during one of them, the guy's like, "Oh, you want a hypno?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." And I didn't even realize. I don't think he realized. So when this cup was announced, and I started seeing about Legacy Hypno, I was looking through. I'm like, I don't have one of these, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, yes, I do. So he
Ooh.
just randomly gave me a Legacy Hypno. So that dude in Chicago, if somehow you're watching this, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you've had some pretty good success at PvP. You've won a number of tournaments.
I'll do all right. Yeah.
The Sylph Road has not released their player rankings yet, as we all kind of wait with bated breath to wonder who's at the top and who's near the top. Um, but you seem to be pretty well prepared. I mean, we've all, those of us who have battled you and sat next to you while you're battling others, have seen you have a little notebook with you and you're taking notes even during the battle. So I wanted to pick your brain about what is your process. How do you start kind of looking to assemble your team, and what are you kind of looking for? Walk us through the roadmap of your prep.
Yeah. So I usually start from scratch with I check Poke Battler, their rankings, and then pvpoke.com. I look at their ratings. I try to get a gist of what maybe the top guys are going to be, and I try to play as many of them as possible. Just it's just I think so much of doing well is just from practice, just experience. Because you can talk all day like, oh, well, Altaria beats Lucario, but how much does he beat it? Like, is there a better option? Like, so I think just getting the vibe and playing as many games as possible. I typically do best in the cups where I start off losing a lot. Like I think it took me like a week to get a single win in like a Tempest game. I just got crushed for a while, and then I learned from that. I was like, oh, okay, well maybe I don't lead with this. Maybe that's one thing I do with my notebook. I'll usually write down my opponent's guys as I see them. It helps me remember because sometimes I'll forget what a guy is, and then I'm like, oh, is this a good switch? I can't remember. So it's just a liability thing for that. I like it for when you're getting ready for game 2. Like, well, what did he bring
Yeah.
game 1? What did she bring game 2? Do I think they are going to bring
That's
in
my
game
problem. I'm getting old man brain. So after you switch out that Pokemon, and then I'm figuring out what to switch in, I don't remember what you got in the back to waiting to eat me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to. I usually print out. I do a little print out of just the positive and negative matchups for my team, the big ones, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to start scribbling down during the match too.
Yeah. No, it helps because I can usually remember if a guy has like a charge move powered up. Like I can kind of just tell. But I'll try to sometimes make an indication of that. But it is hard to check while you're like playing the game.
Yeah.
The games are so short, which I also like about it. Like I also play a lot of Magic the Gathering, but a game can go pretty long in Magic, whereas PvP it's like 2-3 minutes. So
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
What is your history of other competitive games? I played Magic the Gathering years ago, just with my friends, never kind of to go out to tournaments or anything. Have
Yeah.
you played other competitive video games or other games?
Yeah, I started when I was like 7 years old playing. Yeah, I always had Pokemon cards. I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh in grade school, and then when I was like 13, I started playing Magic. It was 10 years ago, so I'm like, I guess it was when I was 14, um, and I just loved Magic. I was like, oh, this is better than all the other card games. There's a lot to it. I had a good community. I worked at a card shop,
Okay.
so I've always been into cards and various games. So I started playing with the normal patrons there. Some of my best friends now. That's actually you met my friend Lance. Um, I know him through playing Magic. So I've played that pretty steadily. I took the last year off because I was doing a lot of stand-up comedy. Actually,
Oh,
I've been
really?
doing comedy for about 3 years,
Oh, cool.
um, and I was just busy with that. But now Magic Arena just came out. It's like Hearthstone, but for Magic. If you've ever played Hearthstone, it's great. I love it a lot. It makes Magic super accessible. You can play it online pretty much anytime. So I'm getting back into it a little bit, and it has cut into my Pokemon Go time, but it's a balance.
Well, actually found some similarities in my mind between Magic the Gathering and Pokemon Go PvP. Just kind of conceptually in terms of the number of pieces you have to
Mm-hmm.
play with and having to kind of know all the interactions and all the rules.
Yeah, I think sequencing is really big in PvP. Like I lead with this guy, I follow with that guy, I switch back, and then I close with this guy. And you have to like kind of have that plan and be adjusting the order that you want to do things. Like, okay, I'll surf first, that way they use a shield, and then I'll follow up with ice beam when they're shieldless. So you come up with these like lines of play that are hopefully take you to victory. And that's another thing that practice I think really rewards is you kind of know what your opponent is capable of. Or like, oh, I usually get to this point in the game, then they switch to Tropius, and then it gets real bad for me. So you know to play around that or to have like an out to that. So
Well,
similar to Magic in that way. Play to
some
your outs.
sometimes the stuff I struggle with is in trying to develop your plan for Pokemon Go. The question is whether I set my team and decide what my strategy is and what I want to do and just kind of blast through it and hope the strategy worked,
Mm-hmm.
or do I create a lineup that kind of mathematically has the best potential matchups over the whole field and just kind of try to react to what my opponent does? It seems to me there's a way to kind of play defensively or just play offensively. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and over time, I think we're going to see personalities and strategies develop along those lines.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like a lot of the game ones, when I'm not exactly sure what's going on, like I have a theory that you're probably going to lead with Altaria or something like that. So, but I don't want to go all in on that because I don't know you. Like this is the first time we're playing, and that's sort of why I kind of like taking notes on the game. You can kind of figure out a person's play style the more you play with them. Like I know that there's some like people locally that they're probably running the same lineup all 3 games. They just think that's like the best lineup. I always like to change my lineup, or do I? I
That's
usually do. The first game, I try to pick my most solid lead because I don't want to have to switch immediately. That I think puts you on the back foot for a game, especially against like an unknown opponent. That's not really where you want to be. So I'll try to pick a solid lead, and then if I think it could match up again poorly against something, I try to have the most solid switch out that I can. So I don't just want to switch to let's say Azumarill and have them bring out Melmetal and just destroy it or something like that. I want to try to have a guy that is probably at least going to be neutral with whatever counter they have. So that's a big thing. I figure, if all things are equal and it just comes down to like sequencing from there, I can probably maybe win that if I have to switch out at the beginning. But I don't want to be on the back foot down a guy right at the start.
yeah,
Nobody.
that's the problem. And then uh, I I watch some of the YouTubers and they tell you these strategies and talk about sacrificial switches and baiting everything. And they have these strategies where you try to bait your opponent into the positive matchup for them, and then you just bring in somebody to get murdered to trap their second Pokemon there. And you can
Mhm.
try some of that, but I think sometimes you can overthink yourself down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. No, that is for sure. There's been games where I've lost where I'm like, I have this in the bag and I'm gonna make this one fancy move, and you're like, oh crap, I forgot. So
Well, I also think sometimes we can over prepare and focus on the quote unquote meta.
mhm.
Because at the last tournament I was at, there was a young woman who showed up, and she had a team that was just almost completely off the meta. It was good Pokemons, but I don't think anybody had prepared for almost any of what she had. And I
Mhm.
saw her, and I'm like, uh oh, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out similarities. Okay, that probably is similar to this, and probably similar to that, so I could apply this rule and that rule. And she took me to 3 games when I played her, and she took some matches from other people, and I have no idea what her history was or how much she'd played PvP before. I hadn't seen her before, but
Mhm.
she was doing a little bit of damage.
Yeah, just having that surprise factor goes a long way. People think they know most of the guys, pretty much all the attacks that you could be faced with. So that was like I ran dynamic punch on my Medicham for a while after power up punch came out. Before I realized how awesome power up punch is. But I did that just because people expected power up punch. People weren't shielding as often from Medicham's first attack, just because they thought it was going to be power punch. They wanted to shield the later one. And then I get a free dynamic punch in, and you basically only use that like once a match. You can't trick everybody all the time, but
What
it
is
was
your
nice.
thought on the new meta that's just been or the new uh, Nightmare Cup with Metacham and Sableye being sidelined? I've seen a
Yeah,
lot of discussion about that on the Discord.
yeah, that's interesting. That was an interesting choice. I don't hate it. I'll be honest. So I like everything they do for the most part. Like with Arena, like yeah, just keep giving me things to play. I don't care. Give me some rules. We all have to follow those rules. Um, I I can believe that Metacham probably was just stupid good. I mean, it's a fighting type that isn't weak to psychic
Yeah,
and can just kill other fighting types and dark types. So it basically could beat most things. And same with Sableye. Like it has like no weak. It's only weak to I think Fairy,
Fairy. Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's it. And you're not going to see that. So two guys, they set it up to be sort of a rock paper scissors. Dark beats psychic, psychic beats fighting, fighting beats dark. It's the same as like water, grass, and fire. So Metacham and Sableye, I thought being that their dual types are so unique, they just kind of get to cheat and just be like the kings. Like admittedly, I would probably play Sableye and Metacham in 2 of my 3 almost every game. Like I don't know what else I would play, maybe Hypno with Shadow Ball, but those two guys are probably going to be on a lot of teams,
Well,
and you have to max them out.
I was a little disappointed because I maxed those guys out
Yeah, I
for
have mine, and I'd love to use
Boulder
them.
Cup and Twilight, and used them very well. They helped me win those tournaments. But I was also concurrently relieved by what they did because I don't have Lugia, I don't have Cresselia under 1500,
Oh,
and those are
let me
just a
tell you how much
nightmare.
I hate Cresselia. I never caught one to begin with. I was traveling that month, so I never had the chance to do a raid. So I definitely don't have a 1500 CP one, but it's for sure the Pokemon I lose to the most in just Great League. I
Yeah.
just don't have like a great out to it on my team. I have a lot of neutral guys that can trade with it, but it's a pain in the butt, and I'm glad I don't have to play against it for an entire month
Yeah.
of this cup.
That part of it made me happy. Uh, Well, I like to keep these relatively short, so let me steer us into the airport and ask you kind of the final question. I started this YouTube channel to try to encourage other players who might like Pokemon Go but who haven't tried PvP yet or to come to a tournament yet to maybe get involved and just show them, all right, these are nice people, cool people, fun people to be around. So if you were talking to somebody who was watching this video who is a Pokemon Go player but who hasn't tried PvP yet or come out to a tournament yet, what would you say to kind of persuade them to do so?
Oh boy. Um, I just they just give it a shot. Battling is so much fun. There's like the type interactions are so cool. I mean, there's a lot of types, and it's very daunting to figure it out. But once you like get it down, it's interesting how close the games can get. And I like it a lot because it gives me almost more of a sense of ownership of like my team. Like I have my guys, I caught them recently. They have the IVs that I like. I've used them all in battle frequently, and I know what they're capable of. So it's not so much as like slamming a button. There's a lot of strategy with like a team that I've spent a lot of time like preparing and working out. So it's cool to have that sense of ownership. The games, they're so fast, so you can get through them. You can do a lot of them, which is always cool. There's a lot of really neat interactions, and like I enjoy how much it gets my heart rate up. Like anytime it's close and it's coming down right to the end, it's exciting. And just to have like that 1 minute, like, all right, let's go, like it burst of almost adrenaline.
I
It
get a
does a
little,
lot
I get
for
a
me.
little nervous between the battles, and my struggle is I'm slowly learning the type matches. When I first started out, my problem was I was making mistakes in the game, not switching to the correct Pokemon, not using shields correct. I think over time, as I battle more, my mistakes in the game are slowly decreasing.
Mhm.
Where I still struggle is picking the right, looking at my opponent's team and picking the right team to go against it, and then particularly in the second and third games, looking at what they did and figuring out how or if whether to adjust to what they did and change my team. So that
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get a handle on
Yeah, game three, I'm all about throwing haymakers. Just do something
that.
crazy, lead something weird, catch them off guard, and ride it to victory. It's always a Hail Mary. But just compared to the rest of the game, like I get like there's no wrong way to play Pokemon Go. If you want to collect everything, if you want to just do all the raids, like that's fine. But that stuff, it just seems so tedious to me.
Yeah.
Uh, so I do it, but mostly just to build resources for PvP because I think that's the most rewarding thing. I think I enjoy interacting with people that play PvP a lot because we all battle together. We're familiar with the Pokemon to use, the team choices, the lineups, and going to raids and stuff and trying to talk to people, it's like, it's a bunch of strangers and we're just here to do a thing and then we're all going to
Yeah.
part ways. There's not a lot of meaningful conversation going on. So I've never been huge on raids, so I'm a little bit biased. But I like the interactions with PvP players a lot.
Well, thanks for joining me. And I'll give a little incentive for people to keep watching. You and I are going to do a few battles, I guess Kingdom Cup, to try to keep
Do it.
preparing for that. And I'm going to run those videos after this and do a little dialogue narrative over top of it. So
Hey,
thank
good luck.
you.
Don't make it too bad.
Thank you for joining me. Okay, here is the set of 3 battles that Joey and I did. I started with Lucario. He starts with Altaria. I think Altaria does pretty well against Lucario, but Lucario can do a lot of damage and win depending on shielding, so I just stuck with it instead of switching. As Joey said, switching out quickly on the first Pokemon puts you on your back foot and is not a good start. So I decided to fight it out with Lucario here. So I burned his shields. His Altario survived though and beat my Lucario. And I switch in Blaziken here. I'm not certain that was the correct switch because I'm suspicious that he has a Lucario, in which case I'm going to lose. So I think I probably should have brought Lapras in there, but still learning from the training battles. So Altaria takes care of Blaziken. So I'm down here. He's got all 3 of his Pokemon left. I finally take out that Altaria. But Altaria essentially swept my team there. So not a great look for me on the first battle. Good game to Joey. Second game I decided to switch it up. Joey and I had done some trainer battles a couple of weeks ago. And I caught it pretty good using Bronzong. So I decide to try Bronzong here, see how he reacts to that. So I lead with Bronzong. He leads with Blaziken, which is pretty much the best matchup I can get with Bronzong. True to his word, he doesn't like to switch out on the first Pokemon, so he fights it out, does a good amount of damage, but Bronzong takes out Blaziken pretty well. So then he brings in Bastiodon, and so to me, Bronzong is taking out his first Pokemon. If I can get a good chunk of damage onto Bastiodon, that's a win all around for Bronzong. So Bronzong takes out 2/3 of Bastiodon's health, and I bring in Lucario. Obviously, you got a shield on Lucario because of that flamethrower. Shield again because Lucario is going to be in position to have some farmed energy. Takes out the Bastiodon, and his Lucario, I'm already powered up once or twice on Lucario, so my attacks are doing more than his, and good game to me on the second game. Joey, however, is nobody's fool, and he reacts to what I've done and switches up his team for the third game. And I go with the same team as I did on the second game, which was a mistake. So here we are, Bronzong versus Altaria. And Altaria does pretty well, but I think this is another one where, depending on shield use, either one of these two can win this. So he's shielded. And I take the Sky Attack. Doesn't do a lot. I perhaps should have taken the first one. I think in hindsight I should have taken the first Sky Attack. Saw what he did with his shield. But Bronzong did good damage to Altaria, but Altaria won that matchup. So my Altaria comes in and takes his out, but not before losing half of its health. I get to the Sky Attack first against Lapras. But Lapras is going to survive this. And so I'm down 2-1 on Pokemons. And he was farmed up and ready to use 2 Surfs on me. So I'm able to take out his Lapras, but he brings in Lucario and one-punches me. So Joey takes the 2-1 battles against me, and good games to Joey, and I want to thank Joey for joining me. And again, ask everybody to subscribe, and thank you again for watching.